They said the basement was empty. When Daniel transferred to the new school, everyone warned him about the basement. "Don't go there," they whispered. "It's just storage, and it's empty anyway." But on his third week, when the bullies locked him inside, Daniel realized two terrifying things. The basement wasn't empty, and he wasn't alone. Subscribe now so you don't miss what really happened in that basement. Daniel hated new schools, new faces, new rules, new whispers. He had moved too many times already. His mom's work never stayed in one place for long. This school looked like all the others. Tall gray walls, two bright lights in the hallways, teachers who barely looked up when you walked past. But something here felt off. It started the very first day. At lunch, when Daniel sat alone, he noticed a group of kids watching him. They weren't the curious type. They were hunters sizing up prey. The biggest one, Jason, smirked and leaned across the table. "New kid," he said, his voice dripping with mockery. "You hear about the basement yet?" Daniel shook his head. Jason's grin widened. "They say it's empty. Just an old storage space, but people who go down there," he leaned closer, "don't like what they hear." The other kids snickered. Daniel tried to act unimpressed, but something in Jason's tone felt wrong. This wasn't just a story to scare freshmen. That night, Daniel mentioned it to his mom. She frowned. "Stay away from there," she warned. "Focus on your classes. Don't go looking for trouble." But the next week, trouble came looking for him. Jason and his friends cornered Daniel by the stairwell. "Want to prove you're not scared, new kid?" Jason sneered. Before Daniel could answer, they shoved him down the stairs, dragging him to a heavy metal door at the bottom. The sign said, "Basement, do not enter." Jason jingled a set of stolen keys. "They said it's empty," he whispered, mocking Daniel's fear. The lock clicked. The door creaked open. Cold air rushed out, carrying the faint smell of rust and something else, something rotten. Daniel's heart pounded. He wanted to scream, but Jason's shove came fast. The door slammed. The lock clicked again. Darkness swallowed him whole. At first, Daniel thought the worst part would be the silence. But silence never came. The basement breathed. Pipes moaned above him, dripping water into unseen puddles. Somewhere deeper in the dark, wood creaked like footsteps too slow to belong to rats. Daniel pressed his palms against the door. "Hey, let me out." His voice bounced off the concrete walls, too loud, too small. No answer, only the echo of his own fear. He pulled out his phone. The weak glow cut through maybe 2 feet of darkness. Concrete floor, old shelves stacked with broken chairs, dust thick enough to choke on. And then, a whisper. Not from behind the door, from deeper inside. "Daniel?" He froze. The air went cold. He'd never told anyone down here his name. The phone slipped in a sweaty grip. Its light swung across the room and landed on something that wasn't supposed to be there. A handprint smeared in black across the wall. Fresh, still wet. His heart kicked into overdrive. "Okay," he muttered, forcing his breath steady. "It's a joke. Jason's hiding down here. Just a stupid joke." But as he followed the wall, light trembling in his hand, the truth was worse. Jason wasn't here. Because the handprints, there were too many. Dozens. Some small like a child's, others long-fingered, claw-like. All of them pointing in the same direction, toward the far corner where the light barely reached. Daniel swallowed hard. The whisper came again, closer this time. "You shouldn't have come." And then, from the dark corner, something moved. Daniel's phone light quivered as his hand shook. The beam caught the corner. Bricks stained darker than the rest, as if something had seeped into them over years. At first, it looked empty. Then the shadows shifted. Two pale eyes blinked back at him. Daniel staggered, almost dropping the phone. His breath caught in his throat. He wanted to run, but his legs refused to move. The thing in the corner didn't move either. It just watched him, silent, patient, like it had been waiting. "Jason?" Daniel whispered, his voice cracking. "If this is some sick—" The thing stepped forward. Not Jason, not even close. It was thin, so thin its skin stretched tight across its bones, gray and mottled. Its arms dangled too long, ending in fingers sharp as nails. And its mouth looked stitched shut, puckered with old scars. Daniel backed against the door, heart hammering. "This isn't real. This isn't—" The creature tilted its head, eyes wide as if studying him. Then, slowly, painfully, the stitches on its mouth began to tear. A wet rip, a hiss of air. Daniel's stomach lurched as the thing opened its mouth for the first time in God knows how long. And in a voice that didn't belong to it, high-pitched, mocking, it whispered Jason's words exactly. "They said it's empty." Daniel's scream ripped through the basement. He pounded on the door, nails breaking against metal. "Help! Somebody!" The footsteps above stopped. For a moment, he thought someone was coming, but no, those were kids laughing. Jason and his gang walking away, leaving him alone with it. The laughter upstairs faded, swallowed by the weight of the basement air. Daniel pressed himself against the cold door, his chest heaving. He dared to glance back. The creature was closer. Its long limbs scraped the floor as it crawled, joints bending the wrong way, each movement making a sound like snapping twigs. Daniel's phone light flickered over its face, the stitches torn wider now, threads dangling, lips raw with blood. "Stay away!" Daniel shouted, though his voice shook so hard it was barely louder than a whisper. He grabbed the nearest thing, a rusted metal pipe from the shelf, and swung it through the dark. The pipe connected with a sickening thud. The creature stumbled back, but instead of falling, it laughed. Not with its own voice, with Jason's, then with his mother's, then in Daniel's own voice. The mocking echoes filled the basement until Daniel's ears rang. He clutched his head, dropped the pipe, and bolted. The light from his phone caught a narrow corridor, half collapsed, leading deeper underground. He didn't think, he just ran. His footsteps splashed through shallow water, the concrete slick beneath him. Behind him, the thing moved faster than it had any right to. Its limbs scraped walls, its nails screeched against stone. Every time it laughed, the sound shifted, pulling voices from Daniel's memory, from anyone it had ever touched. "Danny boy." It was Jason's sneer again, impossibly close. "Don't you want to play?" Daniel skidded around a corner, his phone nearly slipping from his hand. The corridor ended in another heavy door, half rusted but not locked. He shoved it open, stumbled inside, and slammed it shut. Silence. For the first time since the dark swallows him, Daniel thought maybe he was safe. Then he lifted his phone and saw he wasn't the first one to hide here. The room was lined with school desks, each one carved with desperate words. "Let me out. It knows your name. Don't listen to it." And one message, fresher than the rest, scrawled in something darker than ink. "You're next." Daniel's throat tightened as he moved the light over the desks. The carvings weren't random scratches. They were warnings left by kids before him. Some were shallow, rushed. Others were deep gouges, letters cut over and over like the writer had been desperate to make them last. Daniel's hand trembled as he traced one set of words. "It took my voice." Another read, "It sounds like your friends. Don't believe it." His chest ached. Were these just pranks, part of the legend Jason had twisted into a joke? Or had there been others, students like him, so trapped, forgotten, erased? The air shifted. A cold draft curled around his neck. Daniel spun. The door he'd slammed shut wasn't shut anymore. It stood half open, hinges groaning, and in the crack glimmered two pale eyes. Daniel stumbled back, crashing into a desk. Papers fluttered to the floor, old homework, yellowed attendance slips. The names were smudged, but he caught one before the ink bled into nothing. Missing. Andrew Keller. Grade 9. The date was 10 years ago. Daniel's stomach dropped. His own school, his own grade. A boy who had vanished without a trace. The creature's voice slithered through the gap in the door. But this time, it wasn't Jason's or his mother's or his own. It was Andrew's. "Don't let it out." The words broke into a scream as the door crashed open. The creature crawled in, body twisting, mouth stretched wider, threads snapping as its face tore. It dragged itself over the desks, scattering papers, leaving streaks of black across the wood. Daniel's phone flickered. Battery 2%. The light dimmed. He ran for the far side of the room. Another door, smaller, half hidden behind fallen shelves. His only chance. He shoved the wood aside, grabbed the handle. Locked. Behind him, the laughter rose again. His own laughter this time, distorted and cruel. Daniel pounded the door with his fists, splinters digging into his skin. "Open, please!" The phone light blinked once, twice, then died. And in the dark, it whispered his name. The dark was absolute. No phone, no light, just Daniel's ragged breathing and the wet scrape of claws dragging closer. "Daniel," the voice purred. Not Andrew now, not Jason, not his mother. It was something older, heavier, layered with all of them at once. "You don't have to be afraid." His fists bled against the locked door. Splinters dug deep, but the wood didn't give. He felt the cold closing in, the presence filling the room, thick, suffocating. "Let me show you," it whispered. "I can make them pay. The ones who laughed, the ones who left you here. Just say yes." Daniel froze. His chest heaved. Jason, the gang, even his mom, who never believed him, never stayed in one place long enough for him to have friends. Rage bubbled under the fear. "No," he hissed through his teeth, shaking. "Stay away from me." The creature's laugh fractured into a dozen voices, mocking, cruel, familiar. It circled the desks, its nails dragging across the wood. "You'll be forgotten," it hissed. "Like Andrew, like all the others. No one will even remember your name." Daniel pressed his forehead to the locked door, desperate. Then his fingers brushed something carved deep into the wood. He traced the letters in the dark. Key inside. Heart hammering, he dropped to his knees, groping along the base of the door. His hand closed on cold metal taped beneath the frame. A tiny key. The creature hissed, closer now, too close. He could feel the heat of its breath against his neck. His fingers shook so badly he almost dropped the key. He shoved it into the lock, twisted. The mechanism groaned. The door cracked open just as a hand like bone wrapped around his ankle. Daniel kicked with everything he had, tearing free and tumbled through the doorway. He slammed it shut behind him. But as he crawled to his feet, chest burning, he realized the new corridor wasn't empty either. It was lined with doors, dozens of them, each one marked with a name, and one of them said, Daniel. Daniel staggered back, his breath sharp and uneven. The corridor stretched into darkness, doors on either side, each painted with a name in peeling white letters. Sarah, Michael, David, Andrew, names of kids, students, the missing, and then his own. Daniel. His stomach flipped. His legs threatened to give out. No, he whispered, shaking his head. No, no, no. The door with his name rattled. Once, twice, like something inside wanted out. Behind him, the sound of scraping nails returned. The creature was coming, dragging itself through the passage he'd just escaped. The laughter twisted, warped, growing louder, filling every inch of air. Daniel had two choices: open the door with his name or be caught. His hands trembled as he grabbed the handle. It was warm, too warm, like something alive pulsed behind it. Open it, the voices urged. It's where you belong. Daniel yanked. The door creaked open, spilling a thin line of red light across his face. The air smelled of iron and rot. Inside, a desk sat in the middle of a tiny room. On it, a single journal. The cover was stained, pages warped. His knees almost buckled when he read the words scrawled on the first page. My name is Daniel. If you're reading this, run. The journal fell from his hands. His pulse thundered. How could his name already be here? The creature's laughter boomed from the hallway, closer now, echoing with unbearable joy. Daniel grabbed the journal and ran deeper into the room, searching for another way out. His hand brushed the far wall. Soft, crumbling, a hidden passage. He shoved himself through just as the shadow of a long, skeletal hand stretched across the doorway. The creature shrieked, furious this time. The walls trembled. Dust rained down. But Daniel didn't look back. He ran. The passage spat Daniel into a narrower tunnel, the ceiling so low he had to crawl. His palms slipped in the damp. His knees scraped raw on broken stone. The journal thumped against his chest with every desperate move. Behind him, the shrieking hadn't stopped. The creature was too big to follow at first, but its arms, those impossible arms, were squeezing into the tunnel. Nails clawed against the stone, pulling it closer. Daniel shoved forward faster. He flipped open the journal, its pages shaking in his grip. The handwriting was messy, frantic, scrawled by a dozen different hands. Each page belonged to someone else. It follows your name. Don't answer when it calls. The doors are cages. Don't open yours. Then one page stopped him cold. The handwriting was his. Not similar, not close. His. I tried to fight it. I failed. If you're me, run. His chest tightened, bile rising in his throat. How? How could this already exist? A shadow fell across the page. He turned. Its hand was inches from his ankle now, fingers crooked, nails glistening with black sludge. Daniel kicked, scraping his leg bloody against the stone, and forced himself forward until the tunnel split. Left, silence. Right, faint light. He bolted right. His lungs screamed, but the light grew brighter. A set of crumbling stairs appeared ahead, leading up. Freedom. He stumbled onto the steps, clutching the journal, dragging himself higher. Each breath tore through his throat. He could hear it below, still coming, scraping, laughing with every voice it had stolen. At the top of the stairs, another door waited. Wood rotten, hinges rusted, but light leaked through the cracks. Real light. Daniel slammed his shoulder into it once, twice. On the third try, it burst open, and he fell into the school hallway. Daniel collapsed onto the cold hallway tiles, coughing, shaking, barely able to stand. The fluorescent lights above flickered, humming. For a moment, he thought he was safe. But the truth hit him faster than exhaustion. The journal, the names, the warnings. He wasn't the first. He might not even be the last. And then Jason appeared at the end of the hall, laughing with his friends as if nothing had happened. "Where'd you go, new kid?" Jason sneered. "We were worried you got lost in the basement." Daniel froze. His mind raced. The creature, the doors, the voices. Jason stepped closer, smirking. "You look like you saw a ghost or something." Daniel swallowed, clutching the journal to his chest. Then he remembered the advice from the pages, the warnings. He raised his hand, opened the journal, and slammed it onto the ground. Words scrawled across the last page glowed faintly in the dim hallway. "Speak the truth. Name the guilty. The stolen voices will be free." Daniel screamed, louder than he had ever screamed in his life. "Jason, you lied. You trapped me. You left kids in that basement." The hall grew cold. A whisper, soft like a breeze, like hundreds of voices, rose behind him. Shadows flickered along the walls. The creature, or something larger, pressed closer, but this time it paused. Jason's laughter faltered. His friends stared at the dark corners, uneasy. You're crazy," Jason said, voice shaking. "No," Daniel said, trembling but firm. "I'm telling the truth, and everyone will know." The shadows surged, spiraling around Jason and his friends. The air thickened with voices. Those of the missing kids, screaming, crying, shouting. The shadows pulled, twisted, and Jason tripped, stumbling to the floor, clutching his ears, begging. Daniel ran past them, out the main doors, into daylight. He collapsed on the steps outside, gasping. The journal lay in his lap, pages fluttering. The basement was silent now, no whispers, no claws. And somewhere deep beneath the school, a faint echo whispered, "Thank you." Daniel never forgot that day. The basement under his school remained sealed, rumors swirling around it, but no one dared to enter. He told the truth. Jason was exposed, not just for the prank, but for the years of bullying, the lies, the cruelty he had hidden behind laughter. Teachers, students, and even parents couldn't ignore it. The journal disappeared mysteriously, leaving only the carved names in the basement walls as a silent reminder. Daniel learned something no one else at his age ever could. Courage isn't about strength or speed or even fighting back. It's about facing the darkness and speaking the truth when everyone else pretends it isn't there. He never went back to that basement, but he carried its lessons with him: bravery, honesty, and the unshakable knowledge that even the smallest voice can break through shadows. And sometimes, late at night, when the wind rattled the old windows, he swore he could hear a soft whisper, almost like a thank you, reminding him that he wasn't alone. If you want to hear more stories of fear, courage, and truth that will leave you on the edge of your seat, hit subscribe, because some darkness deserves to be faced.